Okay, we can start now. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langate Girim Yat Kirpatadham Vande Shri Gurum Dintarinim Pramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanto Swami Tinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishe Sasunyavade Harshat Deshatarine Vanchikalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhuvya Vasya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaisnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I welcome you all to our Bhakti Sastri study today. So I see almost all of you are here. Welcome. Thank you so much. So today we are going to start chapter 4. If we continue this way, very soon we'll have Bhakti Sastri done. That's awesome. Thank you all for your hard work, and all of you have been very good submitting your homework and doing your assignments. So thank you so much. Excellent. I'm super happy, and I'm sure that you all also feel the same. So today we are going to basically discuss chapter 4, and it's titled as Transcendental Knowledge. So Transcendental Knowledge is also called Gyan Yoga. So we are walking the ladder, yoga ladder. In chapter 2 and 2 of the discussion, we have been talking that there is a very lower grade of life where sense gratification is extremely dominant, and then from there we come to the khanda stage where there is regulated sense gratification, and then Sakam Karma Yoga and Niskam Karma Yoga. And today we are going to talk about Gyan Yoga. So we are slowly walking the steps and going towards Krishna. So once I'll be done with Dhyan Yoga, then I'll take some extra time and show you some information that how we can put everything together, how we can really understand. So maybe some sort of diagram also to make it more pictorial and clear that how this yoga ladder applies in our life. So moving to the next slide. This chapter has basically 42 verses, and we can segment those verses in 6 sections. So first 4 verses, Krishna is talking about how to receive transcendental knowledge. And then from verse number 5 to 10, he will talk about himself. So knowledge of, the highest most knowledge of all the knowledge is knowledge about Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Hari. So will give us the process that how one should receive the knowledge. And right after that, Krishna will talk about himself. And then from verse number 11 to 15, we'll talk about that Krishna is the culmination of all the paths. And then 16 to 24, Krishna is going to help us understand how to do karma, especially here Niskam karma, because we have now, based upon chapter 3, from the chapter 3, we have come to the stage of Niskam karma yoga. So Krishna will guide us, help us understand that how one should do niskam karma on the platform of jnana. And then 25 to 33, how to attain jnana by tyaga, by some yagya and some other sacrificial process. And then 34 to 42, the methods, results, and glories of attaining the jnana. So that's how this chapter is segmented. So what I'm going to do is that give you a very simplified flow, very simplified version of the flow, so that as we are proceeding along the chapter, you can track that, okay, so here is what we are talking, and here is what we are talking, so that, it should be kind of coherent and easy for us to basically get the sense of this chapter. So this is a very simplified version of the entire chapter. So in the previous chapter, Krishna is saying, Arjuna, that lust can be conquered by situating fully in spiritual intelligence. So we talked about, Sakam Karma Yoga, we talked about Niskam Karma Yoga. Then Arjuna had concern that, this pure bhakti, pure Niskam Karma Yoga, how can I do? There is some force that impelling us. And that, Krishna said is lost, and then how to conquer the lost, all of that we studied in previous chapter. And then the last verse says that, conquer lust by situating yourself in a spiritual intelligence. So this chapter, we are going to study what is that spiritual intelligence. So the first few verses, 4-5 verses, top 4 verses, will give us the process of receiving the knowledge, how to receive knowledge. And then right after that, we'll hear about knowledge of the Supreme Lord. And then there will be a few verses talking about the knowledge of the self. And then after that, there will be a discussion about how to act in that knowledge. And there will be, similar to Karma Yoga, there will be 2 types of Gyan Yoga, Sakam Gyan Yoga and Niskam Gyan Yoga. Niskam Gyan Yoga is the highest most, or the highest, or a higher Gyan Yoga, or higher than Sakam Gyan Yoga. Let's put it that way. So we want Niskam for Karma Yoga. We want to be Niskam Karma Yogi. For the Gyan Yoga also, we want to be Niskam Gyan Yogi. And then Krishna will help us understand how we can attain the peace and who cannot attain the peace. So the point that we have to notice here very carefully, what is transcendental knowledge? Transcendental knowledge, it basically has these 3 elements. The first one is knowledge of the Supreme Lord. Okay, knowing who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and also knowing the self. So knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead and knowing the self, and then how one can act in that relationship. Okay, so that's all these 3 elements together called transcendental knowledge. First, knowing who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Second, who the self is and how to act in a relationship so that we can attain Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is in a very concise way the transcendental knowledge, knowing the super soul, knowing the nature of the self as a soul, and then acting in that relationship. Okay, so this is transcendental knowledge. And we'll proceed to the next section now. So, verse number 1, Krishna is basically sharing with Arjuna that I had already spoken this knowledge long back. I had spoken this knowledge to Vivaswan, sun god, and he spoke to Manu, who is a father of mankind, and he spoke to Ikshwaku. So I had spoken that knowledge before, but evam prampra praptam evam raj risho vidu shakale namhata yogo nasta parantapaha. But with due course of time, that teaching that I had given is lost. Okay, so Krishna is basically showing that I had already spoken this knowledge before, but now time has come that I should give the same knowledge, because with due course of time that knowledge is lost. And then Krishna is saying, why I have chosen you to deliver this knowledge. Okay, so on the some of the verses we'll see that there is a star. So a star verses are the verse that we have to memorize also for our final exams. So verse number 2 is a star verse. So Krishna is sharing with Arjuna why he has chosen Arjuna to share this knowledge, and he's saying that Bhakto Asmi Sakhacheti, Bhakto Asmi Chata Sakhacheti. Rahasyam hi etad uttamam. I have chosen you to share this knowledge because you are my bhakta and you are my shakha. You are a devotee as well as you are my friend. So you are able to receive this transcendental knowledge. So after this, right, in verse number 4, Arjuna asks the questions that everybody can ask. How you can say that you gave this instruction to Vivaswan? You are of my age. We have played together, and I have seen, you have seen me. So how can I basically believe that this is you who gave this instruction to Vivaswan? So Krishna will answer that question. And in verse number 5, Krishna is saying that both you and I have gone through many births. I can remember all, but you cannot. So right by that statement, Krishna is basically setting up his position as a divine personality. So from verse number 5 to 10, the segment is basically about divine natures of Lord Krishna's appearance. So very beautiful section where Krishna will talk why he appears and who he is. So many births both you and I have gone through, but you cannot remember, and I remember all of them. That's Krishna said in verse number 5. And then in 6, he's saying that I do not have to really appear. There is no obligation that that I have to appear, but still I come yuge, So yada yada dharma is a very famous verse. Kalani bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam shujameham. So whenever and wherever there is decline in dharma or religious practice, and there is rise or predominant in adharma, at that time I descend. And then verse number 8 gives those 3 reasons that why Lord appears. So purpose of Krishna appearance: paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya cha duskritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So number 1, to deliver the pious. Paritranaya Sadhunam. Number 2, Vinasaya Chaduskritam, to annihilate the miscreant. And third, to re-establish the principle of religion. I myself appear in every yuga, in every age. So our acharyas gives the commentary that to annihilate the miscreant or to re-establish the dharma. These two items Krishna can do through his agency. He's taking care of the whole material manifestation by extending as three super soul, Karnodakshai Vishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Kshirodakshai Vishnu. He has manifested as a Guna avatar, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. He has taken several, Satyavasesa avatar. He has come many times, as Lila avatars. So there are other agencies, other expansion of Krishna, who are capable to take care of those two items. But according to our Acharya, the most prominent reason, all of those three reasons are definitely a valid reason, but the most prominent reason Krishna comes, he comes to deliver the pious. Okay, so Paritranaya Sadhunam is the most prominent reason Krishna comes. And then in verse number 9, Krishna is saying, very famous verse, I'm sure all of you are very familiar with that verse. Janma karma chame divyam evam viveti tatvatah taktva punarjanma naiti mameti. So Arjuna. So one who understands my janma and karma. Janma is his birth, karma is his activity. Okay, in truth, the most important thing here is that tattvataha, in reality, as it is. Then, just by knowing my janma and my karma, that person will never take birth again. So that's one of the famous verse that Krishna is saying in verse number 9, we just studied. And then verse number 10, knower of Krishna becomes purified and attain love. Many in past have received success. So right after that, Krishna is giving assurance to Arjun that it's not like that this is first time happening, that one who knows my janma and karma is not going to take birth again. This is not first time happening, but many great person in past, they have followed, they have done this, and they have liberated themselves out from the cycle of birth and death. So this section, basically Krishna is talking about himself. So we got the knowledge of Supreme Lord, right? This is the Param Gyan of all the Gyan, of all the knowledge that one has. The Param Gyan is knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Atato Brahm Jigyasa. And why the knowledge of Krishna has to be first? Because example is given that everybody has eyes. We all have eyes, but these eyes have some terms and conditions to see. For example, see, if eyes will be sufficient, then why I will have this glass? Why I will have this light, right? So these are basically not perfect seeing. Also, if we are in a dark room, if there is no light, this eye will not make us help to see ourselves. But if there is light, then we can see things as it is. So once we have the knowledge of Supreme Personality of Godhead, then who we are as a part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that knowledge automatically comes. So that is why we, in process of trying to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we know ourselves. Okay, Tamso Majotrigamya. Let us proceed toward that light. Who is that? Who is the source of that light? Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Hari. So when we try to know Sri Hari, then we know ourselves who we are. So that is why uh, the subject of the knowledge of Supreme Personality of Godhead is spoken first. And then here, Krishna is going to give us some idea that who we are and the purpose of everything, all paths, all being being more defined. The purpose of all the path is that we attain Supreme Personality of Godhead. So verse number 11 is talking about that Krishna rewards according to the intensity of love that we have towards Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tamas tathaiva bhajami aham. Whatever degree one surrender unto me, up to that extent, I reward them. So that is why, everybody who is in the process of bhakti, either somebody is trying to approach Krishna as a as a impersonal Brahmjyoti, they also have some taste that they release. Somebody is trying to approach Krishna as a Gyan Yogi, Dhyan Yogi. Everybody has some taste that they release, but those tastes that they release in the process is much, 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 much higher than any material, mundane activity that soul is doing or soul will do. So Krishna is saying that and that's how, if we really go deeper and take the reference of that verse, Krishna is basically saying, that when he says that everybody is looking for me, but they are looking at different place. Brahmameti, Paramameti, Bhagwaneti, Sabdate. All these three are transcendentalist, and all of them are trying to come to me, but whatever degree of surrender that they have, I reveal to them up to that extent. So our approach is that we are approaching Supreme Personality of Godhead as a person. We are approaching him as a person by the process of Bhakti Yoga. Then verse number 12, Krishna is saying that the boons of the demigods are material and temporary. Okay, so in previous verse, there was question about demigod, who the demigods are, what they do, why we have to worship them, right? So here, Krishna is saying that if somebody is approaching the demigod, indirectly, they are coming to me. But the benediction, the boon that they get from demigod, those are material and temporary. And then Krishna will talk about varnashram. He's talking about that there are 4 varnas, and those varnas are based upon guna and karma. Chatur varnayam maya srishtam guna karma vibhagasaha. Guna and karma. And this varnashram system is very, very broken, very, very broken and misutilized and misunderstood when it comes to Hindu context, where Brahmin by birth consider that I'm the Brahmin, so I'm superior than Kshatriya. Kshatriya by birth considers that I'm Kshatriya and I'm superior than Vaishya. Vaishya by birth consider that I am superior than Shudra. And Brahmin considers that I am superior by all of other varnas. But Krishna is saying here that varnashram is not based upon birth. It's nothing to do with the birth. Okay, it has nothing to do with in which family we have taken birth. An example is given that that a doctor, doctor's son, doctor has the qualification to do the surgery, but can somebody let his son do the same job who has not gone through the training, who has not the degree of doctorate, who is not trained to do the surgery? Answer is no. So likewise, varnashram is not based upon birth, but varnashram is based upon guna and karma. Guna is quality, karma is activity. So very clearly, Krishna is showing here. So when we implement that varnashram with the intention to please the person who has created this varna and ashram, then that becomes Daivik varnashram. Okay, so that's what basically, if we have to be in a varnashram system, we have to follow Daivik varnashram that is designed to help everybody come to Krishna. Then, verse number 14, Krishna is saying that work does not affect me. Why? Because I'm not working like other people. I'm not working with some result that, okay, I do this. And so he's now basically helping Arjuna to go more towards Niskam Karma Yoga. So he's saying that, I'm not working because I have some, results to get. Atmaram, Lord is Atmaram. I have nothing to do with this activity. I'm not acting because this result is somehow or other going to impact me. But if one who works by knowing this, or one who works for me, understanding that work is not going to bind me, such soul will basically get liberated from the reaction of the activity or the reaction of the karma that he is doing. Means if one is acting in Niskam Karma Yoga, then that person is not going to be bound by the reaction of the activity or the reaction of the karma that person is doing. So in this section here now, Krishna is going to share how to understand karma on the platform of Jnana. So before I get into this topic in this section, karma here is referring to Niskam karma. Okay, and sometimes as a practitioner, as a aspiring devotee, we have some tendencies. Sometimes we see devotees that he or she likes only doing the service karma, and not trying to know the purpose of why we are doing what we are doing. Okay, so here basically we are going to learn that karma of course is needed. Niskam karma yoga of course is needed, but at the same time the gyan also has to be there. So and or other thing, that other example that we see is that somebody is only after jnana, just trying to get this subject, that subject, too much into the philosophy, but not doing activity, not doing some service. So both side, one side too much activity, but no understanding why we are doing, for what we are doing, what's the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, no idea about the super soul or Supreme Personality of Godhead. On the other hand, we'll see too much study, too much after jnana, but there is no activity such as chanting, deity worship, serving devotee, serving the temple. So both is not recommended. Krishna is saying here that one should do karma in knowledge. Okay, the same thing if you hear from somebody who is jnani yogi, they will give the interpretation of this section in very wrong way. They will say that don't worry for the karma. Krishna is saying here that jnana is what you have to meditate and work on. But But that's not true. The thing is that we have to have proper jnana. Okay, so karma precedes to precede to jnana. We have to have proper knowledge. At the same time, we have to act in that knowledge. So acting in that knowledge, acting in the knowledge. So niskam jnana yoga and niskam karma yoga. If these two comes together, then we are really acting on the very higher level. So I'll just try to go through verses that we have here on the screen. So 16, 17, and 18, Krishna is basically sharing that the karma, the intricacy of the karma are very difficult to understand. Even a wise get bewildered. And I shall now explain you what is karma, what is akarma, and what is vikarma. And we saw that definition in the previous section. Then verse number 18, one who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent. So just quickly I would like to touch. What is inaction in action? In action means we are acting, but at the same time we are not acting. That's exactly it means by saying in action. So when we are acting, but we are acting not for the results of that action, then that's inaction in action. So acting as a niskam karma yogi is inaction in action. And what is action in action? So on the other hand, there are Gyan Yogi. Okay, so Gyan Yogi, what they do? They completely renounce. Okay, they completely renounce. Okay, they renounce it, not knowing why they have renounced, not knowing the purpose of why they have renounced. Okay, so they become completely inactive. Okay, so that's not what it's been said. It's been said here that be inactive, but at the same time be inactive in a way that you are active. What does it mean? Means you have a goal. What is that goal? To please Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we don't want to be really basically shunyavadi. We don't want to completely, that's inaction, not doing anything. No, I have nothing to do, this material world. Everything is false, okay? We don't want that type of inaction. Rather, we want inaction that has action. At the same way, we are saying that we are acting, but not acting for our pleasure, but for the pleasure of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna is saying that the one who sees inaction and action in inaction is intelligent. Then it is further explained in verse number 19 and 20 that activities which are devoid of the sense enjoyment are recommended. So the most learned person, they act without the fruitive result, without the expectation that they are going to enjoy the result of that ever activity. Ever satisfied and independent, perform no fruitive action. So completely, Krishna is again, there is some discussion here again about Niskam Karma Yoga, and we studied about Niskam Karma Yoga in previous chapter also. So Krishna again here is helping Arjuna to understand Niskam Karma Yoga, but this Niskam Karma Yoga is with Gyan. There we just talked about Niskam Karma Yoga, but now we are talking here that you have to act in Niskam Karma Yoga, but with the Gyan that this is going to be in pleasing service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then there are many levels mentioned here, 21, 22, 23, free from desire, sense control, free from sense of proprietorship, acts only for the bare necessity of the life. He doesn't incur any sin. So mostly, basically acting in perfect jnana. Satisfied with what comes of its own accord, tolerant of the dualities. We studied that before also. Free from envy, a study in both success and failure, never entangled, although performing actions, unattached to the modes of material nature, fully satisfied in the transcendental knowledge, acts for the sake of yajna, does not incur reaction, and finally merges into the transcendence. So here in this section, Krishna is recommending that you have all of the quality as you need to act in the Niskam Karma Yoga, but you are acting here in full knowledge. So that's how this section will finish. So there is a follow-up verse in the same section, verse number 24, where Krishna is saying that if one is observed in a spiritual activity with a spiritual attention, then he will basically leads to a spiritual goal, or he will achieve the spiritual goal. Means if one is acting as a Niskam Karma Yogi with complete Gyan, then he will attain the higher result. So in the next section, from 25 to 33, we are going to study attaining the Gyan through Yajna. So in this section, there are some sacrifice mentioned. And in the next slide, I'm going to basically summarize what basically the real meaning of sacrifice is. But the point here is that bhakti, or the higher result, cannot be attained without taking some pain, without doing some sacrifice, and that sacrifice is needed. Okay, we cannot become a pure devotee by doing what we have been doing years over years. Rather, anukulenu krishnanu, we have to find what is favorable for my bhakti and accepting that, and whatever is not favorable in Krishna consciousness, rejecting that. Okay, so we have to take some pain. We have to take some pain. And why we have to take some pain, I'll summarize that in the next slide. So we'll see how different type of worshipper or a person of different objective, what type of sacrifice they are doing. And this is very beautiful for us to understand that everybody, doesn't matter where they are, they have to do some sacrifice. So demigod worshipper, Karma Yogi worship the demigod by different sacrifice. So Karma Yogi, and here basically, so at different place, karma yoga will have different meaning. That is why it's necessary that we discuss among ourselves. Here Karma Yoga is referring to Sakam Karma Yoga, fruitive activity where action is done for result. So demigod worship is under Sakam Karma Yoga. So Karma Yogi worship the demigods by different sacrifice. There are many sacrifice that we see Karma Yogi does. And then Jnana Yogi offers sacrifice into fire of Brahman. Brahman is here referring to Vishnu, or Krishna. So yajna. So Jnana Yogi does the yajna for Vishnu. And Brahmachari, who is following the ashram of Brahmachari, he offers senses in the fire of mind control. So Brahmachari, what is the sacrifice for the Brahmachari? Their senses. Okay, they are offering their senses, regulated senses, for the mind control. And then Girhastha is, what is their sacrifice? Their sacrifice is sense objects, the objects of the sensual pleasure, keeping their life simple life more focused toward Krishna, not getting lost into Lav and Pratistha, Puja, Lav, Pratistha, not getting lost into getting the, getting the object of the sensual pleasure, such as, Tesla car or something. You all know that thing, right? Tons of stuff, I want super most this, I want super most that, I want super big house, I want super big this. If we get ourselves into that, then we'll have no time to do reflection, we'll have no time to do contemplation, we'll have no time to do our bhakti. So Grihastha, their sacrifice is that they offer their object of the senses. And for self-control, the person who are following Patanjali, their sacrifice is life air. They are sacrificing their prana, vayu, to have the self-control. For the charity, the person who is pursuing charity, they do drabya yagya. I know drabya, like money, dollar, gold, silver. These are all drabya. So in charity, the sacrifice is done by giving drabya yagya. In austerity, tapo yagya. So if one wants to basically perform the austerity, then they will have to do the sacrifice of their tapa. Mysticism, for mysticism, they are doing yoga yagya. You can see like people, right? We have one of the very famous picture, one saintly person full in meditation and everything is gone. See the example of Hiranyakashipu, right? So much meditation and his whole body is basically turned into just a skeleton, everything is eaten away. So those type of, sacrifice they are doing. And I highlighted that part, we all are trying to be Bhakti Sastri. So what is our sacrifice? Swadhyaya Jnana Yagya. So we all, me as trying to present this, you as trying to listen it, we are basically doing Swadhyaya Yagya. You are helping me to do Kirtanam. So it's all you who are helping me, giving me opportunity to glorify Supreme Personality of Godhead. So right now, I'm doing Kirtanam and you are doing Saranam. You are hearing, you are doing Saranam. And the exam that we give is Asmarnam. So we did Kirtanam and we did Saranam, and then we are doing homework, which is Asmarnam, remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these pens should be taken with due pleasure, with full happiness, with full enthusiasm, with full energy, saying that, my dear Lord, you're so kind that you have given me this opportunity, because this is nothing but our good fortune, only our good fortune that I have opportunity to do what I'm doing. These slides are made beautiful. Many times I hear the comments that slides are good. Slides are not made good to look good, but it's made good to somehow or other catch our attention and learn. Whichever way, jena kena prakarena, whichever way, whatever works, let's make it work. But the goal here is that we all have to work together in service of Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Sastric study is also, a tyag, a sacrifice that we do. And what we are doing by studying the Vedas to advance the transcendental knowledge. So we are here studying Bhagavad Gita. This is also a sacrifice that we are doing. And then pranam, people do by controlling their breathing, and they are doing sacrifice by keeping control on their breathing. So here we in the previous section we had so many sacrifices that we went over. Demigod worship or Brahman worship, to control mind, to control senses, to have the self-control, for the charity, for the austerity, for the mysticism, for the Sastric study, for pranayam. For each activity, there is some sacrifice that is being done. But what is the purpose of the sacrifice? Okay, and that is basically very nicely summarized in verse number 30. So this chapter, verse number 30, is a very, very powerful, beautiful verse. So what is the purpose of sacrifices? The purpose of the sacrifices is that yagya chipita kalmasha. So these sacrifices are done. Kalmasha is basically impurities. Okay, so to destroy, to burn all the impurities that we have. That's why these sacrifices are done. So the process of sacrifice is basically done for purification. Okay, so that's what basically the verse number 30 is saying. All these performers, we read all of them, who know the meaning of sacrifice, become cleansed of sinful reaction, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere. So that's the purpose of the sacrifice. So verse number 31 talks, without sacrifice, one can never live happily life. Not in this life, not in the next life. Okay, so now if we have hard time doing our homework, we should, we should take it very positive, because that's what here it is. We have to take some pain. We have to put ourselves in situation where something is not the way we want, and that's the process of purification. Many types of sacrifices are described in the Veda. They are born of different types of work of the body, mind, and word. So the sacrifices that we just studied, they could be either sacrifice that is coming from the body, or a sacrifice that is coming from mind, or sacrifice that is based upon activity. We have to do some activity. So mind, word, or body. These are the three category, excuse me, of sacrifices, or type of sacrifices. Then verse number 33 says, Yagya culminates in jnana, which means sacrifice, if it's done, then it should lead to transcendental knowledge. And then there is a very beautiful point that I have mentioned here. Please remember those 3 points that I'm going to talk right now. Number one, all of the sacrifices that we mentioned, those sacrifices, Prabhupada in the purport, this in the verse of in the 30th verse, 30th verse, in the purport 430, in the purport, Prabhupada is writing that the aim of all of these sacrifices are to control our senses. And with that sense control, we become sinless, or purification happens. And once we are purified, our sins have subdued, reduced, then desire for attaining Krishna is firmly transplanted. Okay, so that's what basically verse number 30 is saying, that these sacrifices are done to control the sense. Once senses are controlled, then purification happens. And by purificatory process, the desire for attaining Supreme Personality of Godhead is well situated, is firmly transplanted and fixed in the heart of a devotee. So that is why it's very important. And one of the devotee was telling that if we do not have control over the senses, that means we are not purifying. And if we are not purifying ourselves, then it's very difficult to have the firm faith, have the firm determination to attain Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the sense control is very, 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 very important. Having regulated life is very, very important. In the previous chapter also, we boil down to the point that in order to conquer mind and intelligence, the senses have to be controlled. Because if senses are not controlled, then how mind and intelligence will be controlled? How thinking, feeling, willing, and accepting and rejecting is going to be controlled? So that is why sense control here through this verse 4.30, Krishna is advising us that sense control is very, 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 very essential step to purify ourselves, so that with that purification we'll have desire to attain love of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's the basically purpose of the sacrifice. We should not be misleading with the sacrifices. Ultimately, that's the point. We want to boil down to that the goal of these sacrifices is ultimately to attain Supreme Personality of Godhead through process of purification and sense control. We should not take it other way, and we should not be gymnastic yogi for our health reason or for whatever it could be. Rather, the intent, and that's why we are talking Jnana Yoga. We are using the word yoga because it's going to help us link ourselves with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Hari. Okay, so then further we are going to discuss the methods, results, and glories of attaining jnana. 34, very powerful verse, and I'm sure all of you know. Tadvati panipatena paniprasnena sunnaya tachanti te jnanam jnani tattva darshinaha. Krishna is saying, so where to attain this jnana? Where to receive this jnana? Receive this gyan from a spiritual master. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a guru. Inquire from him submissively and serve him. He can impart knowledge unto you, because such realized souls are seers of truth. Very clearly. So they have seen the truth, and if we get knowledge from them, jnana, okay, so we should, so we are talking about jnana yogi, okay, so we don't want to basically take the knowledge from everywhere and elsewhere, right? We should not be misunderstanding this concept. Okay, jnana yoga, so I need the jnana, so I can study subject from anywhere else, and if we get into Srimad Bhagavatam discussion in the first canto, many verses in chapter 1 and then few verses in chapter 2 of the first canto is basically talking about qualification of a speaker and qualification of the listener. So Krishna is here saying that we have to receive the knowledge from a bona fide person, a person who has seen the truth. He is the seer of the truth. And since he is seer of the truth, he can impart us the knowledge. He can help us get where we have to get. So this is a very powerful verse, a star verse for memorization. Then 35 to 38, 35 is talking that if you are in transcendental knowledge, then you will never fall into the illusion. See all living being as part of me. Pandita Samadarsina. That's also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. That once we have knowledge, once we are in the transcendental knowledge, then we are not seeing living being based upon their body. Rather, we are seeing based upon their soul. We are not seeing their skin, we are seeing the soul. Okay, so one who is in the perfect knowledge will have this quality, that he's not going to be bewildered by the dualities of the material world. Chitosna Sukha Dukha, we are not going to be impacted by that. We are right now, at least I'm not there yet, but at least theoretically have the understanding that that once we have the transcendental knowledge, then we should not be falling into the illusion, and we should be seeing every living entity as part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Also, transcendental knowledge will destroy all the sins. The boat of knowledge, Gyan Palva, and Srimad Bhagavatam has also this mentioned, that one can cross the suffering, the ocean of material misery by riding on the boat of Jnana. So one can suffer, one can cross over the ocean of material misery by riding over the boat of Jnana. Jnana Plava. This is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam also. So the boat of knowledge makes even the most sinful among sinners to cross over the ocean of sins and miseries. 37 is teaching us, destroy all reactions. So if you are acting in in proper knowledge, in transcendental knowledge, then by fire of that knowledge, all the reactions of the material activities are going to be completely annihilated, completely burned away. So this is the beauty of transcendental knowledge. And then 38, very beautiful verse, Nahi Jnanam Sadrisam. There is no other knowledge, or there is nothing in this material world as sublime as transcendental knowledge. Transcendental knowledge is the sublime most in the material creation, because it helps one to destroy all the reactions, destroy all the sins, help us come to the point where we are not impacted by the dualities, help us come to the point where we are seeing each and every living being as a part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is basically Nishkam Gyan Yoga, the highest stage of Gyan Yoga. And then this is the last slide. Krishna is saying, who can attain Gyan? 39, verse number 39. So the transcendental knowledge is attained by one who has faith in the scripture, who have some dedication, and who have sense control. So faith in the scripture, you can see here, and dedication, have a strong determination to pursue the path of sadhana bhakti. We are sadhaka. So the path that we are following is sadhana bhakti. So we have to have the dedication to do Bhakti Sastri, to do other courses, to do our sadhana bhakti and other limbs of the bhakti, and have sense control. Having achieved such knowledge, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace, transcendental peace. Who cannot attain that peace? So one who is in transcendental knowledge, who has faith in the scripture, who is firm and determined, who have sense control, they can rejoice the spiritual peace. But who cannot? The one who is ignorant, the one who is faithless, and the one who doubts the scripture. So the ignorant, the one who do not have knowledge. Atma Tattva, Param Tattva, Bhagavad Tattva. The one who is not familiar with Atma Tattva. That I'm not this body, I'm sure. Not aware that Ishvara Brahma Krishna Suchitananda Vigraha Anadi Radi Govinda Sarakaran Karnam, that Parameshwar Bhagwan Sri Krishna is a person and he is Bhagwan. So Param Tattva and Atma Tattva, the one who do not have this knowledge, they are ignorant. Somebody may have, some theoretical understanding, but they do not have faith into the process. And those who doubts the scripture, these three type of people cannot attain peace, cannot attain jnana. So, what is the reaction when, or what is the final result when one has, this knowledge? One who renounces furtive action by karma yoga. So, furtive action by karma yoga, renouncing the furtive action by karma yoga is niskam karma yoga, as all of you know. So one who is acting in niskam karma yoga. And then second line says, whose doubts have been destroyed by knowledge. So one who is in perfect jnana, in niskam jnana yoga. So niskam karma yoga, niskam jnana yoga, then that person who has realized the self is not bound by the reaction of work or conquer of riches. So Arjuna is saying, Krishna is saying that the person who is fully situated as a niskam karma yogi and who have this knowledge, pure jnana yoga, for that person there is no reaction of the karma, which means that person is liberated. This person is not going to be caught into the cycle of samsara, janma mritu jara vyadhi. He is not caught into that cycle. So with that, you rise and fight. Arjuna, you get up and cut all of the doubt that you have with this sword of transcendental knowledge, and armed with yoga, please rise and fight to establish dharma. So that was the basically summary of this chapter. Once again, I just want to quickly summarize what we, in nutshell, what we went through. We few verses we heard about the process of receiving the knowledge, which is through a bona fide disciplic succession, and then we heard the knowledge of the Supreme Lord Krishna, why he incarnates, and why Arjuna is receiving this message. And then we also had a few points about who we are and what's our basically nature is, and then how to act in that relationship. And it started with Varnashram, and then we talked about acting in niskam karma yoga with the jnana, and then also we talked about who can basically act, who cannot act. So with that, basically this chapter very well concludes, and Krishna is requesting Arjuna that, oh Arjuna, now you have the knowledge about karma yoga, you have the knowledge about jnana yoga, so put both of these together, get up and fight. So we'll have next chapter next week. Thank you so much. I think I'm little over. I'll just try to stop here, and then we can, if you have anything, we can